It's the Trappings and Trinkets podcast, and I'm your host, Nicole. Welcome. I'm glad you're back if you're a returning viewer. And if this is the first time you've seen this podcast, then great. I'm glad that you're giving it a try. I have not recorded for quite a while. The last one that I did with all the sewing, actually I recorded that like way ahead of time. So I don't think I've recorded since about the first week of May. So that means Mother's Day has come and gone, which I had a really nice Mother's Day. Honestly, like I'm one of those moms that like, I don't need breakfast in bed. I don't need a big to-do. I don't need a whole family get together. Like if you just kind of let me do my own thing and don't ask too much of me that day, like that's an A+ Mother's Day in my book. So I hope that if you're a mom that you had a nice Mother's Day or that you enjoyed Mother's Day with your own mom. Let's see, graduation has come and gone. I have a high school graduate in the house now. So our son is our oldest child, and he graduated at the end of May. So that's exciting. We got really lucky. The school that he goes to, this is actually the last year that they're holding graduation at the school. They don't have enough room in the community center facility that they do it if it's bad weather. To offer families more than 3 or possibly 4 tickets. So, you can see how if you have some grandparents around or if you have more than one sibling, like that might be a real bummer if you can't even bring your whole family to the graduation. So the thing that we always hope for is that the weather is nice, because if that is the deal, then we do the graduation ceremony on the football field. And hallelujah, this year the weather was actually gorgeous. Like it could not have been a nicer day. It was like low 70s. It was cloudy, so like you didn't even have the sun shining on you. So it was really a nice day. The ceremony lasted about an hour, and I think they did start it about 5 minutes early because there were predictions of like maybe we'd get a little rain. So just as we were finishing the ceremony and the graduates were walking off the field, it started drizzling. So not so great for taking pictures after the ceremony, of kids that want to have pictures with their friends or if you want to do pictures at the field, but it was fine. The grandparents all got to come to the ceremony, so that was nice, and it was really nice day, and hey, now we made it. One kid is a high school graduate. He's not quite to age 18 yet, but this summer he will be, so we're on our way with that. Since I've spoken to you last, we got to go see a U2 concert in Chicago, so that was fun. So we saw them last June, so we actually made it to 2 concerts within a year, which is, that's a record for us for sure. We got to see the Joshua Tree tour that they did last year, and that was really fantastic. So, we felt like we were taking a time machine to go to the concert, but it was great because, the music is 25 years old, something like that. So everybody at the concert knew every song. So that's a really fun type of concert to go to, and everybody knows the songs, everybody's up and singing and dancing, and it was great. This concert, U2 always puts on a great show, so I am not at all saying that this concert is terrible, but in the U2 concerts I've been to, which this is the 3rd one I've been to, this was definitely the 3rd best show. So I got to see the Joshua Tree tour last year. I got to see them on their Achtung Baby tour in high school, and that was a really good show. And this one was, I think that most of my kind of wishy-washiness on it is just that I'm not super familiar with all of their new stuff. So probably at least half the concert, like it was songs that I was really unfamiliar with. So whatever. And then there was also the fact that it was at the United Center in Chicago, which is the big stadium that the Blackhawks and the Bulls play at. I think it seats like 60,000 people. I'm pretty sure I looked it up after we were there because I was just curious, like, this seems like a huge place. Like, I wonder how many people can be in here. I think it was like 60,000. So no, I take it back. I looked up this one compared to Soldier Field, which is where the Joshua Tree tour was. And I think that Soldier Field was the bigger venue. So maybe this stadium was only like 20,000. I don't know. Now I'm just guessing. So anyway, but it felt really big. And we happened to be in the last row. Our tickets were not for the last row. They were for like the third to last row, but they were in like the middle of the section. And, you know, it's the tiny little seats that, like, why do places have the tiny little seats? I guess so they can seat 60,000 people. But after we sat down and saw where we were in relation to the stage, we were like, we're not staying here. So we, actually, my husband was on the Ticketmaster app looking at other tickets that were still for sale, like reseller tickets. And like while we're sitting there in our seats waiting for the concert to start, he's looking at the resale tickets and he's saying like, I could buy for $150, we could sit over there. And I'm like, no, we already have tickets. We're not buying more tickets. It'll be fine. So we just kind of waited till it was really close to the time when the concert was going to start. And then we just started moseying around to see, actually, we looked at the Ticketmaster app and we figured out like what seats were still being sold on the Ticketmaster app. And then we went to investigate those seats to see if anyone was sitting there. And then maybe we went to those seats and sat in them to test them out. and we thought we were very clever until somebody came along with tickets with these numbers on them. So then we were like, foiled again. So we had to leave. So we went back up to the section, the nosebleed section that we were originally in, and waited and waited. And again, we're getting really close. Like there was a delay at our concert. There's a giant screen that moves in the middle of their set for this concert. And I think they were having trouble getting it to move. So there was like a 20 or 25 minute delay from when they thought the concert was going to start till when it actually started. So in that delay time, we just started kind of walking around the perimeter of the very top just to see like if there were any other options that we weren't really trying to get like closer seats. We were trying to get seats where maybe we weren't totally squished next to the people that were on either side of us. So we ended up realizing that at the very top, so like 2 or 3 rows behind where our seats were, they had folding chairs set up and almost no one was sitting in these folding chairs. And this was kind of like in an aisle, like a big walkway, hallway almost, that was adjacent to our seat section, but there was just a lot of room. So being in these folding chairs where you had 2 feet of space in front of you was way better than being squished in the regular section seats where you basically your legs were banging up against the seat in front of you. So in these folding chair sections, you could actually stand up, you could actually dance a little bit and not run into the people next to you. So we just went and sat in the folding chairs and actually had a really good concert. So I'm not saying that everyone should do that, but sometimes there are solutions to your problems. So you just have to think outside of the box. So around here, summer has started. So we have the teenagers are at home now, and that means summer helping rules have been reinstituted. I may have talked about this last year. So the couple of things that I do with my kids that really help a lot with the helping the household run without making mom do everything is that they help a lot with dishwasher and laundry. And they also, in the summertime, they each take 1 day a week where they cook dinner. So that actually ends up with me only cooking dinner twice a week, which is like a vacation because I do twice a week. My husband does twice a week. Each kid does once a week. And then on the 7th day, we go out. So that's the deal around here. And certainly they are, we started doing this last summer when our kids were 14, 16, and that's all. We just have 2, 14 and 16. But I would say you could probably do this with kids as young as, depending on the kid, 10 or 12. Like by the time I was 10, I could make a simple meal. Maybe there are other kids I know that weren't quite there at age 10, but definitely were there by age 12. And even at the ages that my kids are at now, when they make a new recipe that they've never done before, I might be in the kitchen to help them just figure things out as they're doing it. Some of the recipes that we use in our family aren't necessarily Well, because we do some substitutions because of the lactose intolerance that half of our family has, we do some substitutions that you wouldn't necessarily see written down in the recipe. So that's why I'm kind of there to just make sure that the kid knows what we do differently from what the recipe says. Like, I'm so used to doing that now that I, like, when I read a recipe, when I see butter, I just go, oh, for this recipe, I need to use either ghee, which is clarified butter, or I need to use this yogurt-based butter, or I might use oil baking sticks that can approximate butter in like a cookie recipe or something like that, or I might use coconut oil. So like I have all these substitutions that I use in different situations, and my kids are still learning like what situations you use each one in. So that's why I feel like I kind of have to be there when they're learning a recipe. If you have a family that can eat everything, it's probably much simpler, and you probably don't have to do that. You can just say, hey, you know how to read now. Here's the recipe, and you should follow these directions. Certainly with something like, if something involves a lot of chopping of vegetables and you're talking about a 10 or 11-year-old, you might want to be there the first time they chop all those vegetables just to know that they are using the knife correctly. And that probably goes for sauteing something in oil or butter just so they don't have oil popping all over the place and keep burning themselves. So certainly there's reasons that they might need an adult to get them started on a recipe. But with my kids, once they've made a recipe once or twice, I'm not in the kitchen with them. I might still be in the house and they may still shout a question at me every once in a while, but I don't have to be overly involved in their nights of cooking. So like I said, it really is quite a vacation for me. With the dishwasher, what we do is we each have a magnet that is like the symbol for each person in the house. And so my magnet has my zodiac sign on it. My son's magnet has a cat face on it. My daughter's magnet has like a crazy face on it. And my husband's magnet has the TARDIS from Doctor Who on it. So we have all those magnets in a column, and whoever's magnet is at the top, that's whose turn it is to take care of the dishwasher. So what that means is if there are dishes left in the sink, it's your job to load them. When the dishwasher is full, it's your job to start it, and then it is your job to unload it. And then once you've unloaded it, it's the next person's job. So you take your magnet from the top of the column and you put it at the bottom, and now somebody else is at the top, and it's their job to make sure all the dishes get loaded and started and unloaded, and then they move the magnet. So that's how we do the dishwasher. So when they're, we've been doing that for more than just a year. That's been a while, and the kids do need to be reminded every once in a while, like, hey, I noticed your magnet's up on top. But as they've gotten older and more used to it, they do notice that it's their turn more than I have to tell them it's their turn. So progress, With the laundry, we just, either me or my husband does the laundry, and then the kids are responsible for folding it and putting it in the right person's room, or, towels in the bathroom, that kind of stuff. So that's everybody probably does some version of that. But those are the things that help out a lot as like a regular chore thing around here. We also, every once in a while, like if the house is really a disaster, I might say after dinner, for 20 minutes after dinner tonight, we're going to set the timer and everybody is just going to work. You're just going to see something that's a mess and you're going to clean it up. So, in that 20 minutes, we're really doing like an hour and 20 minutes worth of work, since there's 4 of us all working together. And that you can really, tidy up a house in an hour and 20 minutes. So that helps a lot. So anyway, if you're on summer break with your kids and you're tired of looking at their messes, that can be a couple of suggestions to help you get them a little more involved with the care of the house. So today, as I'm recording, it's June 1st. So Me Made May is over, but I participated, and if you were watching my Instagram feed, you may have noticed that the last, week or so of May was pretty light on the pictures. I was actually still trying to wear things that I had made every day. I would guess that out of the entire month of May, there might have been 3 or 4 days where I did not wear something that, well, maybe not that much, maybe like 2 days that I did not wear something that I had made. So for the most part, I was pretty consistent with it. towards the end of the month, honestly, like I was just getting tired of looking at my face in the Instagram grid. So that's why I stopped posting pictures. And I was kind of, there were a few days where I was just wearing the same things I had already worn. So that's why I didn't keep posting pictures of it. But that was a fun thing to do, just to kind of see how many days I could go wearing stuff I had made without repeating things. And, that I enjoy wearing things that I made. And getting to show them off, I guess, on Instagram. So that was a fun thing to take part in. Speaking of summer, I have a couple of summertime snack suggestions for you. So we have, I think this is a chain. We have a frozen yogurt place called Sweet Cece's in Peoria. In the smaller town that I live in, which is real close to Peoria, we don't have any frozen yogurt, so that's very sad. We just have a Dairy Queen. So lactose intolerance. Anywho, so we go to Peoria when we want frozen yogurt, and Sweet Cece's has Crunch Coat, which, if you are familiar with Dairy Queen, it's like the nutty, crunchy balls that there's usually like colorful sprinkles in with it too, that they put on a crunch cone. So Sweet Cece's has Crunch Coat that you could dump in your frozen yogurt. So last time I went to Sweet Cece's, I had like a cup of frozen yogurt that it was like half frozen yogurt, half Crunch Coat. So that is my number one summer treat suggestion, is find some frozen yogurt and put some Crunch Coat on it, and it is delicious. The other thing that I found recently, this is like the lactose intolerant episode. This is going to be knitting and lactose intolerance. It is this caramel corn. So I like caramel corn a lot. I usually can't eat much of it because of the lactose intolerance thing, because one of the ingredients is always butter. So this brand, Gary Poppins, all natural and whole grain popcorn. The flavor on this one is a classic caramel. They do have 2 or 3 other flavors, and I bought this at Target. So this is probably available at a Target near you. But the reason I can eat this is because they don't just have regular butter in here. They have clarified butter, which is ghee. It's the same thing. And what that means is that the whey, which is like the lactose-y part of the butter, is like, I think it's boiled out of the butter and kind of like taken off the top. And so what's left is the clarified butter, and it either doesn't have lactose or it just has a very small amount of lactose. So people like me can eat it. So I highly recommend Gary Poppins popcorn, and it not only is fine for people who are lactose intolerant, but it actually tastes really good because it has butter in it. It's just clarified butter, and normally prepackaged food does not have clarified butter. It just has regular butter. So I'm not used to being able to have a butter taste in a packaged food. So this is a real treat. Okay, enough with summertime. Let's talk knitting, shall we? Oh, actually, the thing I was going to show you first is this shirt that I'm wearing. So I'm going to cut in a video of me showing you the shirt here in a minute. But first, I want to show you the sleeves, because that's the only thing I modified. So from the first time I made this pattern, for this fabric, which this is a little bit more structured fabric, it is a little bit thicker and it is a little bit dressier. It has a little bit of a dressier look than, this is like sweats. So this is very casual fabric I'm wearing. But this one is a little bit more, not formal, but just, slightly dressier. So to have a very plain structured sleeve suited this fabric very well. When I thought about what I wanted this shirt to look like, I didn't want such a small, not tight, but very fitted short sleeve. I wanted it to be a little bit longer, and I wanted there to be a little bit more room in that sleeve. So what I did is I made a pleated sleeve with a little cuff on it. So this added the length, and the pleat added the extra just space in that sleeve. So from the front, it looks like it bulges out just a little bit, but not too much. From the side is really when you can when you notice that it's a little bit different, then obviously this sleeve has no pleat. So the way that you do this, I'll just explain in the video that I'll put in here right now. So here's the finished top. From the front, I think it looks good. From the back, it's a little bit long for my body, I think. I'm 5'5", and I feel like from the back, this makes me look like my torso is way out of proportion with my legs. So it's not my favorite from the back, and I actually thought about shortening it so that maybe the back is more like this long. So I could do that, and I probably will either on this one or on a future one. The pattern is okay. I thought I could tweak it so that I really liked it, but I wasn't quite successful on this one. But I did like the modification that I did with the sleeves. What I did was, this is one of those pieces where you are folding the fabric in half and cutting it on the fold. So I just took it back about maybe an inch, inch and a half from the fold line, so that I had a sleeve that just had like an extra straight rectangle on the seam side. And then I did a box pleat, so you can see that. And that just kind of made the sleeves a little bit, gave them a little bit more ease, didn't make them quite so tight. So I was happy about that. I thought the neckline turned out really well on this one. So I would say I'm 75% pleased with the way this one came out. So let's talk about knitting. That's my sewing. This is my sewing for the past few weeks. And my knitting has come in the form of a couple pair of socks, and I've been working on a sweater. So these socks might look kind of familiar. They are from a pattern that was in the Lina magazine. I want to say it was third or fourth issue of Lina magazine. I'm 99% sure that it was written by Helen Stewart, but it has kind of this, kind of looks like an arrow to me, like the way that these lines go on the sock. So I actually did not buy the magazine. I almost always will buy a pattern, even if I look at it and I go, yeah, I know how to do that. I will almost always buy the pattern, partially because I'm like, well, this person went to all the trouble to think of this idea and take pictures of this idea and write down the directions, and so that's worth $5 to me. I want them to keep coming up with ideas, so, you know, I have to pay for the things that I want to continue. So I will always buy a pattern if it is available to buy. Now, this particular sock pattern was not available to buy in any sort of digital form. It was only available as part of the magazine. And to be honest, I could have gotten the magazine. My local yarn shop does carry the magazine, but I'm kind of committed to keeping the amount of stuff I bring into my house at a minimum. I feel like there's enough stuff in my house, and I'm actually kind of actively trying to get rid of stuff that we don't use. So to buy a whole magazine just for one pattern that honestly I can look at and figure out how to make it, that wasn't going to happen. So that's kind of where I'm at as far as buying patterns in hard copy. I'm very interested in buying digital patterns. I am not interested in buying hard copy patterns of knitting patterns. But anyway, so I'm not going to tell you exactly how I made these, but if you're a fairly experienced knitter, you can probably look at the pictures and figure it out just the way I did. These lines are obviously made by just cabling stitches, and I ended up with a 64 stitch size, which this was stitched together. I believe the yarn is called like Stitch Strong Sock. I'll put the name of the yarn down here at the bottom. I'll look it up and then I'll put the correct name. So the gauge suited my feet at 64 stitches. Now I did make this pattern a little bit different from the way the original pattern was conceived, because that was a heel flap and gusset on the heel. I just went ahead and did a Fleegle heel. I haven't done that on socks lately, and I thought, I'm just in the mood for doing a Fleegle heel, so that's what I did. If you're interested in how do you do a Flegel heel, I'll put it in the show notes. There's a blog post that has all the instructions, and it's very, very easy, and it comes out really well, and you don't have a lot of holes to close up like sometimes other heel methods can have. So they turn out really well, and I will definitely wear these. I did another pair of socks in Brew City Knits yarn, and this yarn had sparkles in it, gold sparkle flecks. Now they were not super obvious when you knit with them, and I think they're going to be even less obvious on the camera, but we'll see. So, Brew City. The colorway is spectacular, spectacular. Can you see any? I think there's a little sparkle right there. Can you see that sparkle? So, there's a lot more spots, but I just don't see them really showing up on the camera very well. But they're fun socks. They're just a variegated, and I liked the real saturated colors in this yarn. For this one, I did just a short row heel, and this was just a plain vanilla stockinette stitch foot and some, let's say, 2x1, I think. Yeah, 2x1 ribbing on the cuff. And that's it. So, a couple of pairs of socks finished. And I'm still working on my secret sweater. So, it's the one made from Sweet Georgia Cash Luxe Fine yarn. And I've got the arms done. I've got about 2/3 of the body done. I've done and redone the neckline 4 times, I think. And I think I'm finally to the point where I know what I need to do to make it the way I want it. So hopefully 5th time's a charm. And then there's going to be some complicated stuff on the bottom of the sweater. So that's where I'm at now. I'm in a holding pattern so that I can muster up the energy to write a chart and get all the bottom stuff all figured out. But anyway, so that's why I'm not showing you much on that sweater, because it's a pattern that will be upcoming and it's still in progress. So, exciting things that I've read or watched. I read a article, I can't remember where it was like in my Facebook feed. I can't remember who the publisher of the article was. But if you're a parent, especially a parent of, well, I would say this is probably more boys than girls, just from my personal experience with my own kids and their friends. But there was an article talking about your teenager as a cat. And so I thought it was funny because, well, funny but true, because it was talking about how when your kid is young, they're a puppy. They're very energetic. They want to be around you. They're usually happy. They're just kind of up for anything, and they're fun to be around. As your kid grows up and kind of gets into their teenage years, a lot of them, maybe more boys than girls, their mood, their demeanor changes, and they are less likely to want to be around their parents. They are more standoffish, more keep to themselves. They will still come around when they need something or when they, want your attention for, if they have something they want to talk about. They'll still come around sometimes, but it's usually on their terms. It's a lot harder to just kind of invite them to do things with you or to invite them into a conversation and get them involved. If they're not in the mood, they're not going to do it. So that was kind of I really liked that metaphor. It's a very true, and it's an easy way to think about your teenager who is maybe not really in the mood to hang out with you. If you think of them as a cat, it makes it a little bit more like, yeah, okay, well, of course they don't want to hang out with me. They're a cat right now. They'll turn back into a dog later when they're not a puppy, but a regular dog, a grown-up dog, when they are, again, mostly in a good mood, mostly want to be around you, not quite so energetic and high-strung, but, just a little bit more chill now that they're older. But for these teen years, when they're a little bit aloof and they want to keep to themselves, just don't take it personally. It's not you. It's that they're a cat. So I thought that was a good article, and I've been sharing that with some of my friends who also have teens, because that is something that I think parents, I don't want to say that we worry about, but it is kind of strange to see, your child who used to be so, maybe was more outgoing and was more willing to talk to you and be around you. It is a strange thing to see them change into this person who's kind of like, nope, I'd rather just sit in my room for 6 hours tonight. So don't take it personally. They're just a cat. I have been watching The Handmaid's Tale. It's back on. I think it has been since late April. And they are now 7 episodes into an 8-episode season. So season 2, if you're a person who has read the book, season 1 was a interpretation of the book. Season 2 goes beyond the book. So they've already told the story that the book was telling. Now they are still, obviously in the same world with the same characters, but things are happening in season 2 that were never mentioned really in the book. So it's been really interesting to see how they have really stuck very close to the source material as far as like possibilities of things that could happen in the society. They've stayed true to the characters, everything. I think they've done a really outstanding job of continuing the story, staying true to the story, but, expanding it. I know that like people that don't watch the show have told me like, I don't want to watch that. It's too depressing. I agree. It is a dark show. I am not trying to say that it's not. And I'm not, I think that it hits me in the same way that some people feel about horror movies. Like they watch horror movies and they go, well, this is like, you deal with your fears by seeing them acted out. And it's the safest way to do it, to sit in a theater or to, sit with your family or your husband or wife at home and watch a scary movie, because there's no risk to you. You're seeing these scary things on the screen and your mind is dealing with like, oh, this scary thing is happening, but you're safe. I think that that's what The Handmaid's Tale is for me. I'm seeing all these terrifying things. I'm seeing like the worst iteration of what would happen in a society that is controlled by people who are misusing religion and, abusing women in the worst ways. And I'm still safe. I'm still sitting in my home watching this thing. But I think that is the draw to a lot of people, is that it's a safe way to experience like your worst fears played out. And I mean, beyond that, it is a really well-told story. It is well acted. Everything about the series is really well done. So just from that sort of standpoint, if you enjoy well done entertainment, like it is really well done. So I still highly recommend The Handmaid's Tale. And I will also say that the first 5 episodes of the second season, super dark, like everything is terrible. I think there was at least 2 episodes, maybe more than that, where I didn't even watch parts of it. I'm not one for the real extreme stuff, so there were parts where I just fast forwarded. Like I could see what was going to happen. I just hit pause and fast forwarded a minute, and now I'm on to the next thing. So I get it. Like that stuff is terrible to watch. But I will say in episode 6 and episode 7, there are things going on where the audience who is rooting for Offred, the main character, is kind of seeing things happen that you will not be super sad about. You'll kind of be like, oh, like, I wonder what's going to happen next. Like, this feels a little bit more hopeful. So it is not all doom and gloom. It's really more of a roller coaster. So don't go into it thinking like, I'm just going to sit and cry. I'm a person that I will easily cry at movies or TV. I don't think I've cried at The Handmaid's Tale. So it doesn't give me that sort of reaction. So give it a try. It's a really good program. Here's the last thing I wanted to show you. I just did a very small, easy home improvement project a few weeks ago, and I thought it turned out really well. It was relatively cheap for what I did. And so I thought I would pass information on in case you are in the same situation that I was in, which is that my paint, I probably painted this kitchen 12 years ago. Like, it's been a while. And so in places, especially where there's a lot of heat, like over here by the oven, or there's a lot of water, like over here by the sink, some of the paint has gotten a little bit cracked, a little bit, yeah, it was mostly just cracked. So it didn't look great. I wanted to make the kitchen look a little bit better, so I thought, well, this is all in the area that would be covered if I did some sort of backsplash. So I've actually done tile before. I've grouted tile, I've cut tile with a fancy, is it like a diamond saw? It was porcelain tile, because it was an outdoor porch. So I've done all that. I know how to do it. It's not my favorite thing to do. So I decided to go easier on this one, and I ordered this stick-on tile. So the company is called Tic Tac Tiles, and they have a lot of different color options and different tile patterns. So I chose these small squares. They have much larger, like subway tile type patterns. They also have more irregular shaped patterns. So if this is something that interests you, like, you can go on Amazon and see their whole variety of different kinds that they offer. But what these are I think they were 10 by 10 inches, and they are just peel and stick. So each of these, I'm gonna show you one. They're vinyl. So they do have some depth to them. Sorry. Okay, sorry, and I'm showing you a gross one. I'm not really sure, there's like some residue on this one. They don't come like that. Obviously, I did something to it. But they are vinyl. They have depth to them. They are a little bit raised. So I'm not sure if that's showing up very well. Can you see that they're raised? So they're not flat with the paper. I would say they are 1/8 of an inch thick. They kind of feel like hard gel, but it's a vinyl product. So they're flexible. I decided to use my quilting tools to cut them so that my lines were straight. So I just used my quilting mat, my straight edge, and my rotary cutter. But I also, for smaller pieces, I would just cut it with scissors. So this is very easy to cut. You can cut along the grout lines, or you can actually cut right into the middle of the tile if you need to. So very easy to cut. The challenge with putting this up is that you have to keep everything level, and you have to make the grout lines a consistent width from one piece to the next piece. So this edge grout line is about the same width as this. So you have to put the next door one covering this grout line a little bit, but not too much, because you want it to end up the same thickness as this grout line so that you won't notice where the seams are on the wall. So I think I did a pretty good job of that. It's probably not perfect, but it's fine. A couple things I learned while I was doing it that did not occur to me before I started was that you want to begin in the place that you want your edge to be lined up with something. So I actually started that way because I thought I was going to end it here where this countertop ends. I was going to line it up with that. But once I had that done and I had the backsplash around the whole kitchen, I looked at this oven area and I was like, well, now that looks super naked because it was still just painted wall. So I decided I wanted to continue the tile, and I wanted it to end up lined up here with this hood. And luckily, it did end up pretty much lined up with it, but I'd say it goes over by about 1/4 inch. So I'm not I'm not OCD about it. It's fine. But for someone else who that really matters to, that would have been a real problem. So you want to start on the edge and then work towards the corner. The corner actually, it looks fine. This just is where we keep our toaster oven, so you can't really see what is happening in the corner. But in the corner, there are tiles that are just cut in half and just butt up against each other, and it's fine. That's just how it's going to look. But all along the kitchen, it came out really well. The other thing that after the fact I realized, yeah, I should have done it differently, is over here. Whoops, and sorry, the sun is making it difficult to see with the light. Oh, by the way, remember that dish thing we're doing? Guess whose magnet is on top? That's right, it's mine. So I'm the one that's slacking on my job here. Let's see, can we block the sun a little bit to get better light? No, we can't. All right, anyway, what I was going to tell you over here by the window is that this tile up top, this should have been the full tile, and I should have been cutting the tiles here that are kind of going behind this existing countertop backsplash. For some reason I thought, no, the full tile goes at the bottom and I'll cut the one at the top. But once I actually saw that all installed, I was like, no, that was the wrong choice. It should have been a full tile up at the top and half a tile or whatever it is down here at the bottom. So, it was a very easy project. I worked on it for 2 days, probably 3 or 4 hours each day. So you can easily get this done in a full day. And I do have a pretty long countertop area. So I would say my kitchen is probably a larger kitchen. So probably you're either going to have a kitchen that's my size or something that would have a little bit less space that you would put the tile on. So I think that time estimate is probably pretty good. You would want to have a level handy so that you can make sure your tile squares are level, and cutting equipment, and that's all you need. So I'll do a little video here at the end so you can see the finished project. So here's the finished project. I think that it actually has a very realistic look. I don't think anyone would come into this kitchen and go, oh, look at this weird plastic sticker tile. It very much has a realistic tile look. It even kind of reflects light in the same way that shiny tiles would. So I think it has a pretty good look. So we have a really big window. Oh, look, there's the cat feeder. And then back here, we've got some outlets, some phone jacks, all that kind of stuff. Oh, sorry, that's where we throw all our garbage that we need to take down to the basement. So I think that it turned out pretty well. And, oh, I was going to tell you, on Amazon, these tiles run about, I want to say $35 a box. And this whole backsplash, and I want to say my kitchen is 17 feet long. So 17 feet on this side, and then that side is probably 7 or 8 feet. So that space needed about 3.5 boxes. So the tiles are 10 by 10. You can measure your kitchen and figure out how many tiles you'll need. So for $140, I guess, we got a whole new backsplash. So Tic Tac Tile is the brand for that. All right, look, now we're back here. I think that is all I have to tell you about this time. So now that summer is here, the recording schedule might be a little bit more irregular. Today I had one kid that was out to lunch with her friend, and I had to kick the other kid out of the house for an hour and just say, don't come back. I've got to record, because I don't know. I still feel really weird talking to a computer when there's other people in the house. So I have to have the place to myself. So that may not happen on a quite regular schedule. So if you don't see my podcast up, every couple weeks, usually I put it up on a Friday, but that may not be the case for the next few months. So just bear with me. I'll do the best I can. I'm curious if you're a parent that has kids at home during the summer. Do your chore rules change? Do you do things a little bit differently? I would like you to tell me how you do things to keep your house running smoothly, and so mom or the parents don't have to do everything. I'm always very interested in how different people handle that. All right, that's all I've got for you today. I hope you have a wonderful couple weeks, and I'll see you later. Bye.